Hey guys, and welcome to a special edition of the Great Days Outdoors Podcast Network presented by Great Days Outdoors Magazine, the first podcast to bring you the local fishing reports, whether they're good, bad, or ugly. I'm your host, Butch, Thierry, and I'm joined today with my trusty co-host, as always, Joe Baya. How we doing today, Cap?
Man, I guess if folks are hearing this show, that means I'm probably at the hospital, potentially dealing with a new baby.
That's scary.
Guess, hopefully, I'm doing okay. I'm not sure how I'm doing, to be
honest. Might have a meltdown or two. Well, man, I'm excited today. We're joined today with Fishing Chaos, Mr. John Callagaz, the brains behind that operation. How we doing today, John?
Doing well. How about yourself?
Good, man. Welcome to the show. Really excited to get into this. What's the title of this show, Joe? What are we going to talk about today?
Today, we're talking about the new age of fishing tournaments. There is a lot of shakeup happening in the world of fishing tournaments right now. We're going to get in everything new this week. Fishing Chaos let us tell them a little bit more about everything that's going on nationwide, virtually, in person, within their platform. But before we do that, let's hear from this week's show sponsor.
Are you looking for that one-of-a-kind gift for Father's Day? If so, head on over to greatdaysoutdoors.com and check out the best gifts for outdoorsmen 2021. We've curated a bunch of unique gift ideas to help you find an awesome gift for the outdoorsman on your list. Just head over to greatdaysoutdoors.com/best gifts for outdoorsmen to check it out.
And also SunSouth. If your to-do list requires work on the land, go see the folks at SunSouth. They listen to your needs so you get the right equipment, the right implements at a price you can afford. And during their spring sales event, you can save even more on quality John Deere equipment at SunSouth with 0% financing on select models like zero-turn mowers and compact utility tractors. For John Deere equipment, sales, parts, and service, go see the folks at SunSouth. Equipment for those that do. Some restrictions apply. See dealer for details. Expires May 31st, 2021.
And also brought to you by Photonis Defense is proud to offer the PD Pro line of night vision systems. The PD Pro series is the world's smallest and lightest night vision goggles built around the Photonis 16mm filmless 4G image intensifier tubes and their hybrid filmless 18mm image intensifier tubes. The ultra-light, ultra-compact night vision systems deliver cleanest image, best resolution, smallest, most transparent halo, and best overall performance and function of any night vision system available. The PD Pro line consists of the PD Pro M 16mm monocular, the PD Pro B 16mm binocular, and the PD Pro Q panoramic night vision system. Photonis Defense, masters of darkness.
And also, the Flora Bama Fishing Rodeo is an annual fishing tournament held at the Flora Bama Old River Grill. Coined the Gulf Coast's funnest fishing tournament, this rodeo is fun for all ages. From kids to adults, there are more than 30 categories of fish, additional competitive divisions, low entry fees, and a ton of prizes. The fishing rodeo focuses on bringing families together for a fun weekend of fishing on the Gulf Coast. It's June 11th and 12th.
And also brought to you by Fish Bites. Are you tired of scrambling for bait whenever you decide to go fishing? Have an artificial bait that's better than live bait ready to go at a moment's notice with Fish Bites. It's easy to pack and travel with and shelf stable, and not to mention tough. With Fish Bites, the bait stays on the hook and the fish stay on the bait. Check out the full line of scented saltwater and freshwater baits and tackle at fishbites.com. And also brought to you by B&M Pole Company. B&M Pole Company is the leading manufacturer of crappie poles in the world today. Their product line has evolved to include top quality gear for anglers who fish more than just for panfish, including their Sam Super Salt series designed for shallow water fishing for trout and redfish. These rods will deliver everything you need to catch these inshore fish at a great price. The genuine Portuguese cork handle feels great in your hand, and the exposed blank and touch system will add unbelievable sensitivity. Stainless guides are durable and flow smoothly. Check out their whole lineup at bnmpoles.com.
Well, like we mentioned, this week's show is all about the new age of fishing tournaments. And to discuss that this week, we've got John Callagaz, founder of Fishing Chaos, right out of Mobile, Alabama. John, welcome back to the show, man. It's been a while since we talked. 2020 was a shake-up year in the world of fishing tournaments, wasn't it?
It absolutely was, good and bad.
Yeah, man. Well, I think mostly good from what we've talked about, in advance of this show. I think most of the things that have come out of this pandemic in the world of fishing tournaments it's been a good thing. I think we're going to see good results from it for years ahead. So let's jump right into it, man. I think the biggest thing that you've explained to me that I just see is so different is there's a ton of new ways to compete in fishing tournaments. And I mean, I know if you give guys ways to earn points, they will comply. Men will die for points. That's a fact. So what are all the new ways to compete, man? I know we've got, for the longest time, most fishing tournaments were, kill the fish, bring it in, weigh it. You got the heaviest one, you win. What's new out there?
Yeah, well, we still do those kind of tournaments, but with COVID, a lot of that stuff has sort of changed. And during the whole pandemic, we actually ran almost 3,000 virtual tournaments. Virtual tournament doesn't necessarily mean a video game. It's something where, you can have anglers that, fish and then submit their photos via the app. They can bring their fish to the tournament themselves. They can have a hybrid solution. We have tournaments that are now based on length. We have tournaments that are based on weight, points, counts. We actually have a couple of bass tournaments that do the calculated weight with length and girth. And so there's just a lot of different kinds of tournaments now besides just the physical in-person ones.
And you even told me there's even some new products that have come out of this format where, I know now you're able to use certain types of measuring devices where they can take that length and that girth of that fish and pretty much come up with a really spot on estimated weight.
Right. We actually are doing a tournament for a brand called Bucket Mouth Brands, and they just released a new product called the Girthquake. And it sits on top of a typical measuring board. And so with one photo, you can see the length and the girth. And we do all the back end work to calculate what that weight would be.
It's so cool
Fancy.
to see what smartphones are allowing people to do now. And virtual tournaments, I mean, the ability to do that came about at just the right time. Obviously, with us needing to be socially distanced and those type of things, I can see why that has picked up. Do you see that trend going away as we return back to normalcy and social distancing not being necessary anymore as more people become vaccinated? Do you think virtual tournaments go away, or do you think they're here to stay?
Well, I think it's going to be a little bit of both. I always compare it to the new age of meetings. I'll throw it back at you. Do you think the Zoom meetings are going to stay, or do you think they're going to go away? More than likely, people are understanding that they can, have meetings virtually as opposed to face-to-face. Even so, sometimes it's nice to be face-to-face. So I think it's going to be a mixture. I do know that some of the tournaments that we picked up during the pandemic, because of the social distancing, I would say probably 60 to 70% of them this year are continuing to do the virtual side. Some of them have a hybrid solution. We're also looking at some of these tournaments where it's not even the pandemic that's caused the issues. It's sometimes the weather, like the freeze in Texas. Basically, all of the kill tournaments in Texas that are sponsored by some of the conservation groups, they're no longer having speckled trout kill tournaments. So any speckled trout tournament that the conservation groups are part of are all going to be catch photo release now. So it's not just the pandemic; it's also a different way of fishing these tournaments. And I think a lot of people are not necessarily intimidated by them. And so they can sort of fish at their leisure. Some of these tournaments are month long. Some of them are day long, week long. Some of them are a year long. And so, you might not be able to get out there on a Saturday, but you could get out on a Tuesday and fish the tournament just as well.
Yeah, you were talking about, those tournaments out in Texas kind of dealing with that freeze. And now, they're modifying the way they do things based on that fish kill that they had. But, the other thing I think I see is it's so awesome that they can have these alternatives to kill tournaments. It's not to say that I'm against killing fish. I do like me a good fish fry now. I'm not going to lie. But
Yep.
It's the thing is that when you get people competing, you are putting in what I would say is an inordinate amount of pressure on the resource and giving people the ability to compete and compete legally,
with conservation
effectively
in mind. Yeah, that's great.
But then not have it harm the resource. I mean, you were telling me that there was a women's only tournament in Texas. How many redfish did they catch in the first 4 hours or something crazy?
Almost 700.
Yeah. So, I mean, you just imagine that could have easily been a kill tournament,
For the last 20 years it was.
That is definitely a bright spot in the changes that have come from COVID, because now that's going to definitely benefit the resource and people that are really thinking about conservation first. One of the things that you pointed out to me, and man, I'm not a member of a fishing club. I don't think I've ever been a member of a fishing club. Have you, Butch?
Joe, you just weren't invited. I was in many clubs. You were
that makes
you just weren't picked for the
sense.
team.
That's right. Well, there is like a lot of, inward competition in the clubs, and I could understand why they wouldn't want me to be involved in those competitions because unfair,
Right. No doubt.
I understand that. But I mean,
I think it's a pretty new thing.
What's up with all these clubs, man? Tell me about that.
Yeah, so it ranges from middle school to high school to college, all the way to just the standard social club. A lot of people don't realize in Alabama, I think there's 970 high school fishing clubs.
Whoa.
And that's just the beginning. I mean, there's just as many of the guys that just meet on Thursday at the boat ramp. And we offer the ability to manage all of that, including their dues, if there are dues, full, communication with your club. You can spin up a tournament real time. You could want to go fishing on Thursday afternoon and spin that tournament up in 5 minutes and then have a 5-person tournament, or you could have a 1,000-person tournament on a Saturday with the same club. So it's totally different way of thinking from a fishing side, but it's also kids are now starting to get full ride scholarships to clubs. There's no real way for recruiting. So when you're fishing these high school tournaments, you definitely want to keep track of all of your winnings and everything like that, so that when these colleges start to recruiting you, they can sort of look at, how many wins you have, top 10 finishes, just like they were able to do in football and basketball and baseball.
Yeah, I was just thinking about baseball. It's become you got to play travel ball and you got to do this, and it's become more competitive down at the high school, even
much younger
league level.
Oh, yeah,
looking back, I mean, same thing with everything. The more you can track, the more they're going to watch. I mean, I know getting into dental school, for example, they're looking way back in your records, your academic records. So I could see that as another way to do that, and they're going to do that. And this just proves your consistency over time. Speaking back to the virtual tournaments, though, I think the coolest thing for me that I've seen come out of that, just for my own sensibilities, I guess, is the ability to compete in multiple different locations. Mm-hmm. I've always, growing up in Alabama, there's one thing you can say about Alabamians. I don't think anybody would disagree with me on this. We don't just think, we know we are the best hunters and anglers around. I mean, like, we'll gladly, y'all's fish are stupid. You need to come on over here and see what we got going.
Yeah, them deer in Illinois just surrender,
Yeah, right. They just pretty much just
our deer in here are way smarter.
Right. So, but now you can level the playing field, right? You've got guys competing in multiple different bodies of water with the same species of fish. Is that right? Tell me all the different ways people are geo competing.
Yeah, so we have regional tournaments, we have nationwide tournaments, we have local water tournaments. We have a couple that scan North America, so you have Canada and Mexico included. But then you have some of these tournaments that are virtual, and it's nationwide, but you want to compete against similar regions. So a lot of these nationwide tournaments, like Kayak bass fishing, for example, is one of our largest clubs. I think collectively they have about 60,000 members across the U.S. We manage all their tournaments. They put over, I think, on 400 or so tournaments a year. They're part of over 2,000 tournaments a year. And they've done it for the last 5 years, so they know exactly how to do it correctly. And what they do is they set up regions. And so you might be fishing, Alabama versus Alabama in one state or in one leaderboard, but then you also have region 1, which might include California, Texas, and Florida on the bass side, because that sort of puts it on an equal playing field. And then you have the, Northeast guys fishing against the Northeast guys, and you have the Midwest guys fishing against the Midwest guys. And some of these tournaments, they're just purely virtual. And so they end up with each state having its own leaderboard, or each region having its own leaderboard. And then you also have the ones that just use it for qualifiers, and then they all descend on one lake, maybe in like October or something before the end of the year, and they have a fish off of all the winners of all the different regions, which is pretty unique.
That is cool. I love that format.
It's intense.
It is intense. So I wonder if my brain goes to home field advantage, if they pick a neutral site for the fish off to be, or is it somebody going to have the home advantage?
Well, so great. It's almost like I asked you to ask that, which I didn't. We just finished a bracket tournament, which was just like March Madness. It's actually put on by a group called KBBT, which is Kayak Bass Bracket Tour. And what they did is they went nationwide on the 64. It was a group of 64 anglers, and then they did the 32, and the Sweet 16 all nationwide, but they ranked each other based on locations. And then what they did, when you get to the Elite Eight, everybody, they don't know which lake they're fishing, but they get a week rest, and then they're told which lake they're going to fish, and they all go and stay in one, large house and sort of make a big deal about it. But they're fishing a relatively unpopular lake. And so it is a, competitiveness. Cool. And it, when these guys are putting up in 5 fish, they're putting up like 110 inches, which a lot of this virtual stuff is length based, but you'll start looking at leaderboards a little bit differently. But they put up 110 inches in the round of 32. And then when they went to this lake in Tennessee that nobody except one of the anglers has ever fished, the last final 2, the winner had 16.5 inches. Wow. And the second place had 12.5. So it definitely was a grind there.
Well, and that pretty much answered your question about whether or not there's a home field
advantage. Right, exactly. No, I like that. I think that makes it way more competitive. I was hoping that was going to be the answer.
Well, I just like the fact that I could see that other anglers suck as bad as that.
Right, right.
Makes me feel better about myself.
Well, and that's one thing we added, because we do have tournaments that have thousands and thousands of anglers. One of the things we added very quickly was the Find Me feature. So if you're fishing the tournament, you can easily click a button that says Find Me, and it'll find you in all of the leaderboards, whether you're first place or 700th place.
One of the other things that has been very interesting about watching you guys really transform fishing tournaments has been how many different species there are to compete within. I mean, that was one of the things, growing up as saltwater anglers, and I didn't really get into bill fishing until I was a teenager and get to see that side of fishing tournaments. So, in our world, the big hoorah was the Alabama Deep Sea Fishing Rodeo and all the different categories of saltwater species that were available to fish for, because there are so many different species. But now, man, you can compete. If you're the bowfin guy, there's a tournament for you. Tell me about some of the different stuff that's out there besides bass.
Yeah, so we have quite a few snakehead tournaments on our platform. That's more than northern snakeheads, very similar to a lionfish in this area. They are invasive species up there, so they will have kill tournaments as well as catch photo release tournaments for those guys. We also have a lot of brown trout, rainbow trout. We have tournaments that include brown and rainbow trout in the same leaderboard as speckled trout, which, since you're able to cross regions, you're able to have salt and freshwater in the same categories, which you've never really seen that before. And then, like we were talking about trout. Yep. Yeah. But trout's a trout. But one of the other things, we also had a fishing tournament that, just for a nice conservation side and earth friendly side of the fishing tournaments, they had an entire division with counts of trash bags. And I think the winner actually had 180 bags of trash they picked up, and each one was photographed and submitted in.
That's really cool. That's really cool. I mean, you could do that, like, they do all the trash pickups around here. You could do that you could have a trash bag rodeo pretty much.
Well, and some of these tournaments where you have like hey, if there's a tie, it's the first fish that's weighed in, or there's like a multiplier if you release your fish versus kill your fish. Now we're gonna have a multiplier for how many plastic bottles you pick.
Yeah,
hey, I don't hate that idea.
That's not bad.
Hey, John,
leave it better than you found it.
No doubt, that's the goal. Tell me a little bit about the trifecta you were telling me about earlier, John.
Yeah, so the trifecta is a pretty unique tournament around here that we actually have quite a few big sponsors for that. It's put on by Realty Fishing, Fish USA, Finn's Apparel, Kurt Tillman of Captain Kurt, plus Captain Kurt Charters, plus a lot of other sponsors. But in the Alabama area, it's a sort of a unique situation we're in for the first weekend of snapper season. I can't remember the last time red snapper, triggerfish, and amberjack was all open at the same day.
Yep.
So what we've done is we've just spun up a tournament that has multiple different weigh-in locations, and it's going to be a boat tournament. So it's just one ticket per boat. It's a red snapper category, first through third place, triggerfish first through third, amberjack first through third. And then we also have a slam division that aggregates your top fish in every division and then adds them all together. We also have a cash jackpot, $100 buy-in for each of the fish, which with 100% payout, which is sort of unique. This is also, there's no real overhead of this tournament. That's another unique part about doing, some things virtual and some things physical. This will be a physical weigh-in. And since it is going to be Memorial Day weekend, it's hence the name Chaos. There's going to be a lot of boats out there. And so in order to have some places to weigh in, we actually have multiple weigh-in locations for this tournament, and they're still growing. And with our system, we're able to limit the number of tickets per weigh-in. So if a group in Orange Beach can only accept maybe 20 boats, we can have 20 tickets for them. Dauphin Island, we can have a couple hundred. Fort Morgan Marina, we can have a couple hundred. So we're sort of decentralizing a weigh-in location for this tournament.
Spreading out the chaos a little bit.
Exactly.
Well, and not only that, like you say, it gets back to allowing people that are in different parts of the coastline to compete.
Yep, for sure.
I really like that. You were talking about some of the prizes. That's another area things have changed a lot because there's some young folks, there's some amateurs getting paid big time for winning some of these tournaments. Let's talk about the new prizes that are out there.
Yeah, so when you have nationwide tournaments, not only do you have large number of anglers competing and paying in their fees, you also have some big sponsors that can put on some pretty decent prizes. One of the examples we have right now, it's a year-long tournament. It's called Big Bass Zone, and it's actually a Bassmaster sponsored tournament that is for anglers 13 to 19 years old, and it has over a $300,000 payout, including a scholarship, a full ride scholarship. I believe it's to Bethel University, a bass boat, and cash. And what they do is, just like we were talking about earlier, they have a leaderboard per state, which is pretty cool because we're seeing fish coming in from Hawaii, which is unique. But they have one per state, and then they take in October the top person in each state and bring them to a lake in Missouri and have a fish off there for the prize money.
Wow.
Super cool.
I got to get my boy out in the yard, like practicing his casting accuracy.
You cannot start them too young now, Cap. I tell you what,
it's a business adventure now.
It is, man. Well, I keep saying all the time, we got the shaft in high school and all. We couldn't fish to compete. I mean, it's awesome. These kids are getting full ride scholarships, man.
Surely, if this had been happening, you'd already be a millionaire by now with all.
Oh, I would think so. I mean, I'd probably be somewhere.
But it's pretty cool talking to these high schoolers. They actually get to wear their jerseys during school before a tournament. They get off the day before the tournament to pre-fish. They have their boats in the homecoming parades. I mean, it's a pretty big deal that a lot of people just aren't familiar with right now.
Sounds a lot better than getting my brains turned to mush playing football, trying to be somebody.
Just thinking, man, I could have saved a lot of knees and ankles and all that stuff if I'd have just.
I was already ripping lips. Why not get paid for it?
No doubt. Absolutely.
Man, you were talking before we started recording. We were talking about this a little bit. I want you to tell the story of this 8th grader in North Alabama.
Yeah, we actually have a kid. I think he's 14 years old now, but he was 13 last year in 8th grade. And last year, through multiple different tournaments, he actually brought in $53,000 as an 8th grader in tournament winnings. And he was able to purchase his own boat. So he has a better boat than his dad now.
You think he'll adopt me?
I don't think it works like that, Joe.
I need a support system. It sounds like he's on the way up.
Hey, John, tell us a little bit about crank for bass and those tagged bass that we were talking about.
Yeah, so one of the parts of our system, and some of your listeners use it right now for the tagged fish for CCA, we have an entire division on the tournament side for tagged fish. And one of the groups that's actually using it is it's a club out of Birmingham, or actually Lake Martin, called OGS. And OGS puts on about 30 tournaments a year. And they decided this year they're going to do something called Crank for Bank. And it actually, there's 200 tagged fish in Lake Martin. And it's open, I believe, until July 4th. It started April 1st. And it's a virtual tournament, so they have big, nice prizes for standard fish you're catching. But then they also have 200 fish that are tagged. And one of those fish is worth a truck. 2 fish are worth bass boats. And then one fish is actually worth $1 million.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So at the end of, and right now, as we're recording this, what is it, May 19th, there are, I think 9 tagged fish that have been caught out of 200.
Wow.
You reckon Norm with Southeastern Pond Management will let me get that electro-fishing boat and go up to Lake Martin?
We can find those dudes. I get a seine or something. We can get them out of there.
They ain't never seen me with a cast net.
No doubt.
Well, the one cool part about that tournament is actually we're working with the state on all the tagged fish. They're able to grab the data, because not only when the anglers submit the fish, when they catch the tagged fish, they know where they caught it, but then they also know where it was released. So they're going to be getting data from years on out about these tagged fish, just like CCA does with the redfish and specks.
What do you do if you catch one of these tagged fish?
So in this tournament, you put the fish on a measuring device. You open up the Fishing Chaos app and you submit a catch to the tournament. You put the length and the tag ID in the proper fields.
Gotcha.
Then you hit submit. And for this specific tournament, the rules are you have to cut the tag and keep the tag with you, and you can release the fish.
That makes sense.
And then you just, bring it on July 4th or July 10th is when they have their big sort of end of tournament party, and they're going to announce the winners. And so you have to bring the tags with you.
Nice.
Man, you can't make that kind of thing happen without some really good sponsors. And that can be the toughest part of putting on any kind of event, is finding sponsors, finding businesses that want to be a part of it. But they've jumped right on board. I mean, it's almost been like immediate adoption from a lot of these brands and a lot of these businesses. Why do you think they took to it so quick? Because usually folks are kind of resistant to change.
Yeah, well, like we said earlier, the pandemic changed everything. I think it's sped up technology in the fishing world by at least 5 years. These brands they're no longer going to fishing tournaments. They're no longer going to trade shows.
That's what I was just about to say. All the trade shows were canceled and all that.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So not only do they need to stay engaged with their current customers, there's also, I don't know the numbers offhand, but I know that it was at least 15 million new anglers since March of 2020 that are brand new out. And before that, there was 50 million anglers in the U.S. Now there's, at least 65 million. And so they're trying to figure out how to capture that new angler. And the new angler could be a high schooler, it could be a retiree. And they're just trying to figure out what can they do to help not only the fishing side of it, but the brand awareness that goes with these guys fishing. And, we have some big name brands that have put on multiple tournaments on our platform. We did a couple with Salt Life. We have, we've done, I think 3 or 4 with Livingston Lures, which unique story about that. That was a bass tournament. They also did a redfish, but the bass tournament, they had to have the Livingston lure that it was caught on in the photo, and the sales spiked the top lure that was used. And so they got a good kick out of, seeing their sales spike just because of somebody caught in this case, I think it was a 24-inch bass or something on a specific lure. So, if somebody else catches a fish on that lure, you're going to go buy that lure as well.
No doubt.
And then we also have had, stuff with the Discovery Channel, Peter Miller. We've done a couple large tournaments with Fish USA. We just finished a high school and college tournament with Strike King and Lose. And, these big brands are, putting it out there, and it typically they're all free to fish. So you just, sign up and you fish. It's pretty cool.
Well, speaking of sponsors, let's take a quick break to hear from some of the folks who make this show possible. And we'll talk to you again here in a minute.
This week's show is brought to us by Killer Dock. As anglers, we put a lot of time, money, and passion into fishing, but most of us do not have a fish cleaning station that we are proud of. Many of us are suffering from dock dysfunction. A rotten table with rusty metal, this is just no good. But the dock enhancement that we've all been waiting for is finally here. Killer Dock uses marine-grade aluminum to make fabulous fish cleaning tables and stunning canopies that will keep us out of the sun. Killer Dock combines durability, function, and design to uniquely upgrade your entire dock experience. Visit killerdock.com to see more. Also brought to you by Foster Contracting, Fortified Roofing Pros. Did you know you could save up to 40% on your homeowner's insurance with a fortified roof? Learn more at fortifiedroofingpros.com or call them at 251-973-9999.
And also brought to you by CCA Alabama. Pick up your distinctive Alabama saltwater fishing license plate at revenue.alabama.gov. And also brought to you by Hilton's Real-Time Navigator. The days of heading out and blindly looking for good fishing areas are pretty much over. Don't waste time and money on fuel searching for fish. You need the most recent, highest resolution images to not only know where to go, but more importantly, where not to go. The knowledge provided by today's technology is critical when planning an offshore fishing trip. Make the choice that professional captains all over the Gulf make and choose Hilton's Real-Time Navigator. The easy-to-use interface and excellent customer service will have you on the fish every time you go. Check it out at hiltonsoffshore.com.
All right, John. So we have all of these new anglers that are participating on this awesome platform. I know you mentioned all the clubs and the high school teams that can now be involved. This is all through the Fishing Chaos app, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, all of these anglers are all signing up for free. They're fishing the tournaments that, maybe cost money, but a lot of them are free for the brand side. So it's really easy and affordable to start tournament fishing with this new style of tournaments.
It's not just clubs, though. It's not just clubs and individual anglers. I mean, you've talked about some of them, youths, high school teams, college teams. There's the clubs, there's individual anglers. But now you've even got companies that are putting on tournaments for their employees as company tournament.
Yeah.
Who else is out there? I mean, who isn't fishing, I guess is what we ought to be asking.
Well, it's the new golf. It was pretty funny. We ran across a statistic last year that, we mentioned earlier, there's over 50 million at the time, 50 million anglers. Puts it in perspective, there's only about 23 million golfers. And so some of these, companies that are used to having these golf tournaments, they're actually switching over to fishing tournaments. And it's actually easier to have a fishing tournament with, 2,000 anglers than it is a golf tournament with 2,000 golfers. We're going, anywhere from the engineering firms. We have a couple of pipe fitter firms, some oil and gas stuff, where there's some big companies that have some big tournaments. And then also the organizations. I mean, like we have a lot of Mardi Gras organizations that you'll see our name associated with. You'll also have the conservation groups, like we talked about earlier. We've done, I guess, in the last 3 weeks, we've probably done 4 CCA Texas tournaments. We are about to push a nationwide first responders tournament. That's going to be a pretty cool tournament that is a charity-based tournament, but it's going to be nationwide. So it went from having maybe a 200-300 person cap to unlimited number of anglers, and they're going to be all fishing on their own time.
So what I'm hearing is that it doesn't matter who you are. There's people interested in beating other people.
That's fine.
Absolutely. And bragging about it.
Well, speaking of that, I mean, that's a lot of the reason why a lot of people don't fish in tournaments is that, maybe they've never fished in a tournament before and they're kind of just like, I'm not going out there and get humiliated.
Or intimidated, exactly.
Or, they're just intimidated by the whole process. But you're starting to see a lot more folks competing who've never competed before. I think the virtual aspect of that makes that a lot easier obstacle to overcome.
Yeah. And you're actually seeing some of these guys that, are coming out of their shell and, they're dominating on these virtual ones where you've never heard of them before.
I feel like
one of well, one of the things that these bass tournaments has really shown us, and we've taken a little bit to the saltwater side. We did this with Captain Garmison's Winter Classic. We had the Average Joe, which is a new style leaderboard for, this area, I think. And it basically is a 5-fish bag in the bass world, but it's not the top spot. It's the average bag actually wins a prize. And so it does allow for Joe to win something.
Finally, Joe, something for you, buddy.
Yeah, they even named it after me.
I know.
Great name.
All right, so John, as a consumer, as an individual fishing, I have many opportunities to fish on multiple different bodies of water. Basically, you're competing against anybody that you want to compete against and whatever species that you want to compete against.
And multiple tournaments at one time.
That's true too.
That's another thing that we've really seen. We have right now we have about 600 active tournaments that are online. Of those, a lot of them are cross marketing. You might have a nationwide tournament and a local tournament that both have bass or speckled trout or redfish, and you can fish both of them with submitting the fish one time. Wow, it still gets judged.
Next question.
Yeah, it still gets judged by the 2 separate tournaments, but
Sure.
as from the angler's point of view, it's done automatically. You don't have to do anything special. You submit a fish, and there's different rules that we really haven't gotten into about the how to prevent cheating and all that kind of stuff. But we do that, and they're able to, if they meet all the requirements, one fish can go to as many tournaments as they're signed up for.
That's
So
sweet.
if I fish like 12 weekends in a row, and one weekend I catch a giant lunker of a specimen, and I'm in 12 tournaments that weekend and I win them all, and then I don't win anything for the rest of the other 11 weekends I fished, does that still make me a good angler? I mean, at that point,
A lucky one.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather be lucky than good any day,
Hey,
right?
I
Exactly.
mean, that's cool though. I mean, if you are gonna fish, and that's the thing, most guys don't get to fish that much. Let's be honest. I mean,
Yeah.
most guys got a lot of things, and I say guys, I mean people have a lot of things tugging at their time, whether that be their family, their work, their all the different responsibilities they've got. And so if you can go fishing and you want to compete, why not compete in multiple tournaments? That's so cool. I mean, you just otherwise wouldn't be able to really do that at all without these changes.
Right. Yeah. One of the cool new features that we have, there's multiple reasons people configure the tournaments for this, is they have dates available to fish. So just like what we were talking about in the trifecta, you're able to pick your way in. If this is a week-long tournament, but legally they only allow you to fish one day.
Mhm.
So you pick the day that you're going to fish. So the guys that work on the weekends, they can fish on Monday or Tuesday, and the guys that can only fish on weekends, they can fish, but you're only allowed to fish one day or maybe 2 days. So you pick your
that's
day before you even fish.
I like that. So we've talked about the advantages to the individual. Let's talk about the advantages on the flip side of that as a tournament director. We've already established that this has changed the game entirely for the individual and the tournaments. Tell us a little bit about the tournament platform, me being a director of a tournament.
Yeah, so the biggest thing is it's fully configurable. So if you come up with a tournament situation, more than likely we can handle it just through configuration changes, which you as the tournament director are in full control of. So you have the admin rights to all the tournaments you're the director for. But then there's also the cost. There's no upfront cost to these tournament directors. The barrier to entry is pretty easy. You just have to make sure you have the audience, which we also help out with on that. But from our side, the tournaments can pass our fees to the anglers, or they can eat the fees, and they're small fees. So it's not like it's a lot upfront.
Huge chunk, right?
Yeah.
That's sweet, man.
What other technology features? I mean, we talked about these virtual tournaments, but y'all's platform, the Fishing Chaos platform, has really been integral in allowing for this expansion and these new types of fishing tournament opportunities. So, if a tournament director, and y'all have had a lot of tournament directors who've been running tournaments for a long time, move over to using the Fishing Chaos platform, really at no downside to them. But what are some of the upsides besides that, like what you've already mentioned, that no upfront cost? And what is a tournament director getting by working through you guys?
Well, the first thing is we handle everything on the digital ticket sales. So you don't have to go use a third-party company to sell digital. One of the things that I think everybody's aware of is a lot of these tournaments, the majority of their ticket sales are the last 2 days when everybody goes and looks at the weather. And then all the way up to, if the tournament starts at 5 a.m., we're selling tickets all the way to 5 a.m., and they don't really have to worry about any of that. The system has a full live leaderboard configuration. So you don't have to, if you want to, you can have the whiteboard or whatever at the tournament location, but more than likely you can have a digital leaderboard. We have a data pipe for, a big leaderboard or on stage like the ADSFR had last couple of years. We provide those leaderboards to the production crew, and they put all that data on the live leaderboard. So you don't necessarily have to have the grease boards anymore. You still can, but you're going to be changing them constantly. The anglers themselves are able to look at that leatheboard out on the water.
On the app, right?
Exactly. On the conservation side, if they're allowing overslot specs in our area, and somebody has a 7-pound spec already weighed in, and you catch a 6-pounder, and there's only one payout, you can release that fish. You don't have to bring them in. You can always take pictures and do everything you need.
Sure.
But you can release that. And we, in our bass tournaments, a lot of guys love it because, the pre-spawn, when the fish are spawning, they're on beds, and the typical tournament takes them off their beds. They might run 30 miles to the weigh-in location, and then they're released. I think they've had some studies about, do those fish go back? Do they stay around? There's a large mortality rate. So what you're seeing is a lot of the bass tournaments moving towards that MLF style, where there's, judging the fish right there on the boat and releasing it right where they caught it. So it allows a lot of that kind of stuff, along with full feeds. So like our club management tool, you can have a club feed and you can see every single thing happening in that club. You can see that Joe moved from 6th place to 5th place. Such and such joined the club, such and such registered for this tournament. And so, you're able to see all of that live, which the anglers really are loving.
Yep.
Butch, do you see how when John talks about Joe in the theoretical, he's always boosting Joe up? Joe's always doing better and better and better. Do you ever notice how he does that?
As long as it helps you, buddy, that's all that really matters.
Well, I appreciate you, John. I can just tell that you've got my best interests at heart. And, you were talking about the conservation aspect of this, and I think that's awesome because there's just no doubt about it. And I'm not against fishing tournaments, but there's no doubt about it. They put an inordinate amount of pressure on particular species purely for our enjoyment. I mean, it's not something that the fish need to have happening.
Yeah.
So anything we can do as anglers to protect the resource, which really should be again, I'm not against killing fish. It's just, it should be our focus to protect the resource that we've got, so we can kill them later.
Why not? We have the ability to let those fish live. I mean,
that's right. That's right. But that one of the things is, I think there's just more tournaments out there than you could ever imagine. I mean, you're talking about there's 600 live tournaments right now. How many tournaments are y'all coordinating each year? And are we to the point where we've hit a max on that?
No, so this year we're probably going to end up, we've already done over 3,000. And that sounds like a lot except when you look at what the U.S. is. With the average number of tournaments per year in the U.S. is 50,000 tournaments. And those are just the ones that are documented.
Right.
That doesn't count the boat ramp beat downs and things like that.
That's what we call it when Butch and I go fishing.
That's right.
But we do a lot of those. But we're only starting to scratch the surface with these tournaments. There's a lot of them out there that are still on, pen and paper on the back of a truck. And, we've done tournaments where there's been 2 anglers, and we've been tournaments when there's, 8,000 anglers. We've done one tournament where there was 180 schools and one kid submitted 2,000 fish.
Wow. He was doing some work.
Yeah.
He was sitting on a pond that had a whole lot of brim.
That's awesome.
It was the first month of no school in that March or April timeframe last year, and so their group of schools started a sports club the year before and had success in it. So this year they started a fishing club for all 180 high schools, and it's been very successful.
That's awesome.
And Butch, when you were in high school, you'd have been like, "Hey man, I caught 2,000 fish over the last month," and then people be like, "Yeah, sure you did, buddy. That's a nice job." He's like, "No, really. Here's Fishing Chaos app. I logged them all."
Yep.
No doubt.
You can prove it.
Speaking of that, you've got the tournaments that are benefiting from using your platform. But you also got the anglers too. What are the anglers getting out of this deal?
So besides the live leaderboards and the instant communication with the tournaments, you're also seeing that all statistics are kept, so you can always go back and look and see what you caught. You can see what place you had. You can make it public so other people can see it as well, which is, I think, a first step to starting the recruitment process from college to high school. But it also, on the people that have already gone through that route, it's their bragging board. And so you can see everything you've done. Totally up to you whether you make it public or not. But if you fish the rodeo and you wanted to see what you did 3 years ago, it's right there in the same spot as the one 2 years ago and one last year. So you can get all of that in one spot. So it's real easy to go back and see. We also have a lot of tournaments that are the physical kill or live release tournaments of the bass side, where they maybe have a couple days pre-fishing. You're seeing a lot of these groups put on pre-fishing tournaments that are the CPR style tournaments. So when you log a fish, you actually submit it to your own catch log as well. So you're sitting there collecting your own information, and you're able to go back to those spots. And so just like when you get on a good feed on pre-spawn or whatever it is, you find a location, you hit the man overboard button on your GPS unit to mark a spot, you just catch a fish and you log the fish, and we do that for you. And so you can always go back to that spot, and you can always see, any of the information, as much information as you want to put in there. It's all private for you, and you get to go back and look at it.
Butch, I think of all of the captain's guides that we've interviewed over the years on all of our fishing reports, I think there's been two things that have stuck out to me that they all say. One is that the person who can cover the most ground typically is going to win, and that could mean in the form of longer casts, faster boat, whatever that may be. But two is just about every single person we've ever interviewed keeps some kind of a catch log.
Yep.
They're tracking what they've done, where they've done it, and trying to go back and reverse engineer those conditions for whatever they got today. And I think that's a big benefit to what you guys have going on, John. But I mean, there's a free version and a paid version, right, for anglers. So if for the guys that are, everybody can get on and get it for free. If somebody wants to pay, what are they getting by paying?
Yeah, so we have a couple different subscription levels, and they're always changing. We're always adding stuff to it. But, the way we make money is by the convenience fee on the tickets. That's why there's no upfront cost to the tournaments. Typically, the anglers pay it. It's just like if you're, buying a concert ticket, you see the small convenience fee. That's how we make money. And if you are a paid subscriber, which is, our lowest cost version is $3.99 a month, then we waive those fees for you. So you just pay whatever the ticket fee is. Now, if you sign up for the annual subscription level, which is you basically pay for 11 months and we give you 1 month free, then we also have a lot of different promotions that go with that. We give you $20 eBucks for Fish USA. We give eBucks for Salt Life. We give eBucks for Fins Apparel. We give discounts for Catch, which are some of the measuring board products. Lots of different, promotions that basically pays for itself. Just those three products are over $60 worth of value. So, if you wanted to pay, great. If not, you don't have to. Then you just pay. If you're only fishing a couple tournaments a year, then, it might not be worth it to you. But if you are some of these guys, we have guys that fish 10 to 15 tournaments a month. Now that they don't have to physically go to 10 to 15 different spots, they're able to fish 10 to 15 tournaments a month. And, at a couple bucks a tournament, that adds up pretty quickly for those guys. So they just pay the $3.99 a month, and they don't pay any of those fees.
It's a win-win.
Man, pay 33, get 60. That math even makes sense to Butch.
I'm not so good with the numbers.
Well, John, there's a lot of new stuff going on with fishing tournaments. That's no doubt. The thing we want to leave everybody with this week, though, is that Fishing Chaos is the newest partner to the Great Days Outdoors family, but additionally, the podcast network. And what you guys are going to be bringing to the table, I'm really excited about. And that's going to be weekly updates on all of our podcasts with regards to what fishing tournaments we've got coming up based on what podcast you're on. So if you're listening to the Alabama Saltwater or the Northwest Florida or Alabama Freshwater, and as we expand more and more and more, you're going to be coming on, and somebody from Fishing Chaos is going to be coming on, letting us know what's going on this weekend. So in keeping with that, what's going on this weekend in terms of fishing tournaments for, guys in the Alabama, Northern Gulf Coast area? What do you want to highlight? And, because we won't be able to go through them all, tell everybody where they can go to find every tournament that's available to them through Fishing Chaos.
Yeah, I appreciate that. The easiest thing on the app is the tournament page, which is the default page it brings you to. And one of the things you'll see on there is, depending upon physically where you are geographically, we show different things. So if you're, opening up the app around the Alabama, Florida area, you're going to see some of those tournaments as opposed to maybe in California, you'll see other ones. But around here, you're actually, we have a couple large tournaments that are spinning up right now that are physical tournaments. So June 5th, we have the Ben Dunham's Legacy Tournament, which is a great tournament. It's a benefit tournament. And you can get all the information on the Fishing Chaos app for that. Registration and tickets are open right now. We also just kicked off the Jimmy Sanders Memorial Lionfish Tournament, and that just started a couple days ago. And it is a catch photo, do not release lionfish
catch photo
tournament.
Catch photo, grind their bones into dust.
Yeah. So, but that one's lasting throughout the entire year, and they have some great prizes. And it's one of those things where you go out, and I think, last year people were bringing in hundreds, I think one guy brought in, 500. And so you're able to see that sort of, help the environment a little bit with getting rid of some of these invasive species. We're seeing the same thing with snakeheads in the north. Over in the Northwest Florida side, I think on June 5th, we have the 30th annual Gulf Breeze Sertoma Family Fishing Rodeo, which is a great tournament. It has lots of different fish. It has a junior and an adult division. And, that one would be great for an in-person family event. On the virtual side, which we can always virtual because, they're typically nationwide. We talked about the BBZ one, which is the Big Bass Zone, which you can still register for that. That's another thing is a lot of these tournaments that are virtual, they keep the registration open as long as you catch the fish. It depends on the rules, but sometimes a couple hours after you register. So you can register at any time. We also have multiple kayak bass fishing tournaments. So if you're into the kayak world and you're into the bass world, I would say we have over 300 kayak bass tournaments right now that you can join that are, some are nationwide, some are local. And then, we also have some other, groups and organizations that you can just find on there, and you'll never know that, they're having a tournament except if you find them. So that's sort of what we're talking about over the next couple of weeks. There's going to be more coming. Like we talked about that trifecta tournament, that should be a great one. One of the things I wanted to point out on that is we're actually going to be giving away spots to fish with Captain Kurt and Bombshell during the second week of June. So we're going to be doing random drawings for people that register early. It's also going to be part of the prize packages. I know that Saltwater Fanatics is putting on a snapper talk by Mike Kennedy, I think Thursday before the tournament. And we're going to announce some of the winners for the Fishing with Bombshell there at the snapper talk.
Fishing with Bombshell sounds pretty nice, but I don't know. Them tagged $1 million bass running around up in Garden.
Well, that's another one. That one lasts until
got my attention.
July 4th. Get up there and catch some of those bass.
John, this has been fun, man. I appreciate you coming on and telling us everything that's going on, not only with you guys, but nationwide with fishing tournaments. Sounds like it's an exciting time to be in the fishing tournament business, at least if you're on the technological side, because things are definitely headed that direction. Like you said, we're going to be talking to you each week from here on out and finding out what's going on with fishing tournaments near folks that are in our audiences. And we're excited to have you on board and just appreciate you being a part of the network and helping keep this free for so many people that utilize these reports. We appreciate your support, man.
Yeah, well, I think it'll be a great partnership.
Yep. It's going to be cool to see the tournament schedule. It's also going to be in print. You forgot to mention that, Joe. It's going to be in Great Days Outdoors magazine.
It's going to be in Great Days Outdoors magazine. You're going to be able to check it out on greatdaysoutdoors.com. We're going to give you about as many ways to figure out if you've got a tournament near you.
That's right.
As you can imagine. So
if you want to compete, we got you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, one thing I did not mention that I forgot about, and this is pretty cool. I guess there's an organization out of Europe that has 58 million members, and they are the organization that should be bringing fishing to the Olympics.
Wow.
And so one of the cool things about us is we're running the qualifiers for Team USA in certain divisions. And so you can go online right now. And the one that's open is the Team USA Kayak tournament that will, I don't know how many people get to be on Team USA, but that one tournament is going to be deciding who gets to fish for Team USA in the international events. So there's a lot of international stuff going on as well.
So what you're saying is I need to start training.
Right.
Yes.
Dun, 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 dun.
All right,
Right?
I'm ready.
See, this is where you were talking earlier about how you feel like you got the shaft, Butch. I mean, like
Yeah.
the money, that would have been nice. I'm sure I would have won a lot of money, but gold medals is what I'm all about,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I feel like it'd be very similar to Michael Phelps, I feel like.
Yeah, I should probably be up there competing somewhere.
Yeah, I think so.
Awesome show, John. We appreciate you being on, man. We really do look forward to seeing the tournament schedules every week.
Appreciate it, guys.
All right, folks, that's going to wrap up this special episode with Fishing Chaos. John, we appreciate you being on the show and appreciate you being a sponsor. Joe, it's always good to record something with you, man. I'm glad you got to see me today.
Yeah, it was your pleasure.
Yeah, no doubt, man. That's going to wrap it up this week, folks. You guys please subscribe, rate, and review wherever you listen to podcasts. And we'll catch y'all next week. You guys keep whacking them. This week's Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report was brought to you by Bucks Island. They have new pontoon boats, bass boats, bow riders, and aluminum boats for sale. They provide boat service on all kinds of boats, even if they weren't purchased from Bucks. Visit them at 4500 Highway 77 in Southside, Alabama, or give them a call at 256-442-2588.
And also brought to you by Daycool Heating and Air, your home performance specialist. Contact them at 251-260-3858 or check them out online at www.daycoolair.com. License number AL07028.
And also brought to you by Advanced Transmission in Spanish Fort. Give the professionals a call who have been trusted on the Gulf Coast for over 25 years at 251-626-6061 or check them out online at www.advanced-transmission.com.
And also brought to you by Test Calibration. Test Calibration, your source for sales and service of diesel turbochargers and fuel injection systems since 1976. Contact them at 800-822-0057 or visit them online at testcalibrationdieselandturbo.com.
And also brought to you by Sam's Stop and Shop is your one-stop shop located at 27122 Canal Road in Orange Beach, Alabama. Sam's has a little bit of everything, including a deli, inshore, offshore, and surf fishing tackle. They also have bait, clothing, groceries, name brand sunglasses, and so much more. Stop by and shop or call them at 251-981-4245 today.
This week's Saltwater Fishing Report is brought to you by Angelo Depaola, the Coastal Connection with eXp Realty, your boating and beach property specialist. Check me out on Facebook at Angelo Depaola Realtor, the Coastal Connection, or call me direct at 850-287-3440.
And also brought to you by the Alabama Marine Resources Division. The Alabama Marine Resources Division reminds all recreational anglers that gray triggerfish, greater amberjack, or red snapper must be reported through Snapper Check prior to landing the fish in Alabama. For more information about Snapper Check, please visit outdooralabama.com.